And I based my husband on whether or not he had status or influence or fame or lots of followers. And that kept me single for a long time. And that kept me heartbroken for a very, very long time. Hey girl, it's Johanna with God is Glamorous, where we learn how to live our best lives through Jesus Christ. And today I'm going to give you the top 3 things that are keeping a lot of Christian women single. And quite honestly, the top 3 things that have kept me single for a very, very long time. But throughout my singleness as a Christian woman, I want to share with you the things that I've learned so that you won't make the same mistakes, all right? So without further ado, let's get started. All right, so first things first. One of the biggest things that have been keeping a lot of Christian women single these days is pride. A lot of women are looking at the outward appearance, and that's why a lot of Christian women are single. One of the main reasons why a lot of Christian women are single right now is because they keep looking at the outward appearance. And I have to be honest, this was me for a very, very long time. But the Bible reminds us in 1 Samuel chapter 16, verse 7, God is speaking and he says, "Do not look at the outward appearance, for I have rejected him." And he says, man looks at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. And if you are a woman and you are basing a man's worth on his outward appearance, I promise you, you are going to be single for a very, very, very long time, because the world has conditioned us into believing that if he doesn't drive a nice car, if he doesn't live in a nice home, if he doesn't make millions of dollars, if he's not wearing brand name shoes, if he doesn't wear Gucci or Louis or Hermes or whatever, then he's not the man for you. And that, quite honestly, is a demonic way of thinking, and it's shallow, and that is not the way in which God chooses your husband. God will choose your husband based on his heart and based on his character. And this used to be me for a very, very long time. Like, I used to believe that my husband would be this well-known pastor, he would be this great minister, he would have all this influence and all these things, and I based my husband on whether or not he had status or influence or fame or lots of followers. And that kept me single for a long time, and that kept me heartbroken for a very, very long time, because I was looking so much on the outward appearance. What is his status? What is his job? What is his career? Rather than looking at his inward appearance, rather than looking at his character and his heart. And yeah, I dated a lot of men who had money and who had status, but they were not men after God's own heart. And that kept me heartbroken for a very, very long time. I've dated men who had a lot of success and a lot of money and a lot of status, but their hearts were far from God, and it kept me single for a very long time, because ultimately sometimes men with a lot of status and a lot of money, sometimes they don't have the humility to wait until marriage. And that's what I found myself running into. I dated men who had a lot of status and who had a lot of wealth, and they were so prideful in their status and their wealth that they believed that they were entitled to sex. And that's where a lot of my relationships failed, because I was pursuing purity and they weren't. And I had to wake up and realize that the man that God has for me is not going to be about the outward appearance as much. The Bible says, seek wisdom. Wisdom is the principal thing, in that it is more valuable than silver and gold. If we just look at the Proverbs 31 woman, the Bible mentions this woman's husband a few times. He was a man of character. He was not a man that was so focused on his outward appearance. The Bible says that he sat amongst the elders, meaning that he had wisdom, that he was respected for his character, not for the amount of money that he had. He sat amongst the elders. He didn't sit amongst the high rollers. He sat amongst the elders. And you want a man like that, a man who is so respected and is rooted in his character that he sits amongst the elders. He doesn't sit amongst the men who are just flashy and trying to show off their wealth. He's sitting amongst men who are already wealthy and who have integrity and make decisions on behalf of the people. Focus more on the inward appearance, the character, rather than the outward appearance, and that is the surest way in which you are able to recognize your husband. All right, number 2. Here's the second thing that I learned. As long as you are focused on the outward appearance, the enemy will continue to send you counterfeits. What do I mean by that? It is easy to fake things when you're going by the outward appearance, but it is not as easy to fake character. You can fake the outward appearance for a longer time than you can fake character, because character is rooted in what is in your heart. And as the Bible says, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. And if you continue to choose a man based on his outward appearance, then the enemy will continue to send you counterfeits. The enemy can send you any man who has a lot of money. It's not hard for the enemy to send you a man that has a lot of money. The enemy is the god of this world. It's not hard for the enemy to send you an attractive man. The enemy masquerades himself as an angel of light. This is why Jesus says to look at the fruit. The Bible says you will know them by their fruit. Not you will know them by how much money that they have. Not you will know them by their status. You will know them by their amount of followers. You will know them by their fruit. Because the enemy cannot fake fruit. Eventually, that character is going to come out. You can fake character for 1 to 3 months, maybe even, God forbid, a year. But eventually that fruit's going to come out. That's why it's so important to pursue sexual purity. Because when you're pursuing sexual purity, you have the clarity that you need in order to see the fruit rather than the outward appearance. When you're having sex outside of marriage, you are automatically bonded to this man. You are literally married to this man in the spiritual world, and you are not able to truly see his character for what he is. So if you are continuously looking at the outward appearance, how many followers he has, what's his status, how much money he makes, what kind of car he drives, the enemy will continue to send you counterfeit men, because the enemy is the god of this world, and sending you a man with fame, with fortune, with wealth and status is nothing to him. But if you truly want to discern between a counterfeit versus the real thing, look at his character, because as the Bible says, man looks at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. All right, ladies, I'm gonna give you the last thing that is keeping you single, and this one's gonna hurt a bit. If you continue to choose a man based on whether or not he has kids or not, that's going to be the primary thing that's going to keep you single for a very, very, very long time. Why? It's because it is not biblical to choose a man based on how many kids he has. I see a lot of Christian women saying, I do not want a man with kids. And quite honestly, that's going to keep you single for a very, very long time. The Bible says that children are a blessing from the Lord. They are an inheritance from him. And if we are basing our husbands on whether or not they have children or a child or not, that is going to keep us single for a very, very long time, because it shows the Lord that you are not spiritually mature enough. And you're trying to find a husband based on his outward appearance rather than his character. If he has 5 kids by 5 baby mamas, it's probably a character issue and you should probably steer clear. Or if he still has soul ties with his child's mom, you should definitely use wisdom there. But if it is a healthy co-parenting relationship, and if all soul ties are broken, and if God is not signaling that there are any red flags, I believe that you should use your wisdom and seek the Lord, and whether or not this is a man that you should pursue. But you should not disqualify a man simply because he has a child or because he has children. No, I get it. It's not a preference, but if God is presenting a man to you and he has all the right characteristics, and if he has all the right character qualities of a godly man, I truly believe that you should give him a chance. Because as the Bible says, man looks at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. But let me know in the comments what you think. What do you think is keeping a lot of women single these days? Also, if you are a Christian woman and you're like, you know what, I really, really need to be connected to a Christian community of women who talk about sexual purity and Christian dating, then girl, what are you waiting for? Go ahead and click the link below to join my Esther Academy, where we talk about all things related to sexual purity and wife preparation. But other than that, thanks so much for watching, and I will see you in another video. Stay glamorous.